My name is Emily Schaefer. I am interviewing Keith Michael for the Veterans History Project, part of the Library of Congress. Keith was born on October 3, 1981. He served in the United States Air Force as Technical Sergeant. This interview took place in Falling Waters, West Virginia. I am the cousin of Keith. My partner's name is Christine Wolf. Where and when were you born?
I was born in Martinsburg, West Virginia, and I was born, as you said, October 3rd, 1981. I was born in City Hospital here in Martinsburg.
Can you tell us a little bit about your family?
I'm married to Jessica Michael. We've been married for almost 3 years, and we have a little girl named Morgan who just recently had her first birthday.
What kind of job and activities were you doing before you entered the service?
I entered when I was 17, so I was still in high school. When I was in high school, I worked at the local Kmart and also at a furniture place called the Oak Barn.
Do you have any other family members that were in the service, extended family included?
Not immediate family, extended family. Our families had some great uncles who have served and that were drafted during World War II, including one that was drafted to be in the Army Corps that served in the Air Force portion of the Army before the Air Force became its own separate entity.
Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I enlisted. It was a personal choice. I enlisted right in the middle of high school, my senior year when I was 17.
Why did you decide to enlist?
I decided because I actually got into the Air Force Academy to go to college, but when I went out to visit and I just decided that it wasn't for me. I didn't want to go out there for 4 years and have to be committed to active duty for an additional 5 years afterwards. But I always had some sense of wanting to serve my country, and I wanted to get some of the benefits that came along with being in the military, like school benefits. So while I was still in high school, I joined the West Virginia Air National Guard. So that's why I joined at an early age to help get my college paid for after high school.
What was your reason for choosing Air Force?
The Air Force is a very technical part of the military. It's not as, I don't want to downplay any of the other services like the Army or the Marines, but it's more of an infantry type of force, and it's more do what you're told type, whereas the Air Force is treated more like a business, and you have a very set skills and standards that you have to follow. And that's one of the reasons I chose the Air Force. The other reason was there was an Air National Guard base right next to our house. And it was about 5 miles from where I grew up. So I grew up around Air Force people my entire life.
Have you moved around a lot because of being in the Air Force?
I have not, because I'm in the Air National Guard, so we don't have to move like active duty people. I'm stationed here and assigned to the West Virginia Air National Guard, and will continue to be as long as I continue my enlistments.
What rank did you start out at?
When I joined in high school, you can't be any higher than E1, so that's called an Airman Basic, and that's what I started out as. And then right after I graduated high school, I had enough scores on my ASVAB and enough experience with my GPA that they automatically promoted me to Airman First Class, which is E3.
How did moving up the ranks work for you?
It worked very well. I got a few enlistments below the zone, and I was able to move up the ladder very fast. I made it to my current rank, E6, Technical Sergeant, before the age of 23, which is very fast in the Air Force. So moving up through the ranks was a very positive experience for me, and with that, learning how to perfect my skills and also learning how to lead subordinates. I learned that at a very young age and excelled at it, so it was a good experience for me.
What is the highest rank you have achieved? Please describe what your job is with this rank.
The highest rank I've achieved is Technical Sergeant, which is E6, which is about middle of the road. It goes E1 to E9 in the Air Force. So I'm a little bit higher than halfway up the enlisted rank. But just recently, 2 weeks ago, I was selected for an officer position. So here in the next month, I'll become a second lieutenant probably, maybe even a first lieutenant depending on how my skills are judged and everything by the selection board. But I was selected to fill that rank. So that will be the highest rank I will fill here in the next month.
How long did it take for you to get through your training?
It took my initial basic training. I went and left home in the beginning of July, and I didn't get home until November. So that's almost 6 months that I was gone. And then there have been many follow-on trainings ever since then. Probably, if you add them all up, probably another year to year and a half additional training ever since that initial basic training. It's follow-on training, Airman leadership training, NCO Academy, all that would be included. And it's base training. As you move up the ranks, you're always in a state of learning.
What was your training like?
Basic training was not fun. They like to yell at you, but it's all designed to make you perform a skilled job in a stressful environment. So you can't really take anything personally that they're yelling at you, but they're teaching you very tedious tasks, and they explain everything, and they give you a manual that tells you exactly how to do everything. They just try to make it as stressful as possible. And what it does is it teaches you to basically perform in a war environment. Everything that happens in a war environment, bombs going off around you, machine gun fire, you still have to perform your job, and that's what basic training does. So the training was very difficult, very stressful, especially for someone coming out of high school and having your parents basically do everything for you. To going straight into that environment was a big culture shock for me, but they teach you how to get through it, and the Air Force does a very good job of doing that.
Did you have any specialized training? If so, what?
Yes, I'm specialized as air medical evacuation, health service administration specialist. So I'm basically, I get to track and monitor air evac missions for air medical evacuation. So I help keep up on all our flyers that fly on the back of the aircraft to take care of all our patients, get the patient paperwork squared away, working out with the front enders, the pilots and the aircraft commanders on making sure that our people are taken care of, and what hops they're going to be making across the different locations they're going to be stopping and picking up patients. So I have a lot of different roles I can play, and it's kind of skilled, and the training that I had, my follow-on training from basic training, taught me how to do all that.
Has your position ever put you in danger?
There have been several times. This past deployment, we flew into a couple different situations. There were 2 different stops in Afghanistan, one being in Kandahar, where we made a stop, and we had an indirect fire attack as soon as we landed. We had to evacuate the aircraft and go run to a bunker as some of this explosions were going on around us. So that was probably the closest to anything on the front lines I've ever experienced myself.
What was military life like for you?
Military life is it's a little bit different than being at home. It's learning your place and knowing where you fit at in your organization, and being able to take orders and instructions from those appointed above you. So you're constantly having to trust and lean on the people that have been assigned above you. And you have to learn that, even though you might not think what you're doing is right, that you need to trust the people that you are ahead of you, as long as it's within regulation, within code. So it's not where you're leading your own life. Sometimes it's being dictated to you. So it's an adjustment, especially for someone like myself who's not in military life all the time, coming from civilian life to military life, flipping back and forth can have its issues.
Where have you served?
I've served in Germany. I've served in a country called Qatar. I've served in Andrews Air Force Base, Scott Air Force Base in Illinois, and Travis Air Force Base out in California.
What was your trip like to get to those places?
The most difficult, obviously, was all the way into the Middle East. It's a very long trip. The military does a very good job of scheduling rotator missions, so that we actually fly on commercial flights all the way into where we were going. And just a long flight. We flew 7 hours to Ireland, and then an additional 7 hours from Ireland down into the Middle East. So it was back to back, and as soon as we got there, we started right away into working and everything. So it was kind of hard to adjust to the time difference and traveling for that long. But in most cases, all my travels with the Air Force have gone very smooth.
What was a regular day like while you were serving?
While over there, we worked 6 days a week, 6 of the 7. We worked 12-hour shifts. So we would get up early in the morning. I worked 7 to 7, then get up at 6, walk to the bathrooms. There's no bathrooms nearby, so you'd have to walk to every bathroom. They call them Cadillacs over there. You'd go to Cadillac, just like normal life, get ready, put your uniform on, and then they had a transport bus to get us to work, or we had a few vehicles, so we would kind of carpool together to get over to where our work center was. We'd go to our work center and start jumping in on it and taking care of whatever that day's missions were.
Did you witness any action there?
I wouldn't say I witnessed any action. Being air medical, we're constantly moving patients away from the action. And by the time they get to us, they've usually been medevaced by the Army, so they're off the front lines. So for the most part, AirVac is off the front lines. There is a package in AirVac called an AELT. They're a liaison team to the Army, so they're a little bit forward. And what they do is they call back to AirVac and say, hey, this is the expected load of how many patients we're expecting today. They're a little bit more on the front lines, but I've never served in that position, so I wouldn't say that I've ever served on the front lines.
What kind of duties did you have away from the front line? Please describe them.
My duties were duty controller, so that's tracking and monitoring all the AirVac missions and the flights in and out. I've also served as the unit deployment manager, which was my last deployment, where I was in charge of making sure all our assigned personnel got in and out of the theater and tracking their travel in and out, and also their emergency management, making sure that they had all their proper chemical warfare gear and making sure they were prepared in case we were attacked.
What kind of emotions did you have with those jobs?
Duty controller can be very stressful. Making sure you're launching missions on time is really critical to coordinate with the front end, with the command post, with our AirVac team, and with the patients that are coming on. So the casualties center that's going to be dropping off, the staging facilities that will be dropping off the patients, talking to them, because we don't want it to be the delay of a patient getting out of theater. It's very critical. Some of these patients are, teetering on the edge of their life and everything, and if it's, my job to make sure that that aircraft is going to get off the ground, if I cause it to be 20 minutes late, that patient's, health is in my hands. So you're constantly stressing and making sure you're hitting your timelines so that that patient has the greatest chance of survival as possible.
Did you make any friends during your deployment?
I've made every deployment. I've been on 3. Every deployment I've made friends of people. I've usually, being Air National Guard, you go with a lot of people that you know, but there's always a group of people that you might know. And I've always made good friends, long-term friends that I still stay in contact with that I've never met before. And it's kind of nice. AirVac is very small across the Air Force, so you run into a lot of the same people. So even though you might be going out the door and not sure who you're deploying with, you might really recognize or been deployed with these people before. So I've always had a close knit of friends and then made new friends while all the deployments I've been on.